Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is going to be February releases that I'm excited for. So there are 8 books that are coming out in the month of February that I am excited for, and these range from various different genres to various different age ranges. So I'm just going to go through from like the first being released to the last of the month in order, talk a little bit about them. So let's just get started. So the first book, which comes out on the 1st, is This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi, and I've just heard really good things about this. It's also, I believe if I'm not mistaken, Tahereh Mafi's first dive into like a fantasy world, and I'm very excited for this. I don't know much about it, so I am going to read the description solely because I'm pretty sure I read the description when it first came out. I added it to my TBR, and then I've just been waiting for a release date to come around. So clashing empires, forbidden romances, and a long-forgotten queen destined to save her people. To all the world, Elise, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Eliza? To all the world, Eliza is a disappointable servant. Not the long-lost heir to an ancient Jinn kingdom, forced to hide in plain sight. The crown prince, Cameron, has heard the prophecies foretelling the death of his king. But he could never have imagined that the servant girl with the strange eyes, the girl he couldn't put out of his mind, would one day soon uproot his kingdom and the world. That's like as simple as it is, and that sounds pretty dang interesting. I definitely won't be reading this in February because I already have a huge TBR for that month. But maybe like March, April might try to squeeze it in. Who knows? I know it's the first in a trilogy, I believe. So I might even wait a little bit closer to book 2's release, but I have no idea. Also on February 1st, The Weeping Tide by Amanda Foody. This is the second book in the Wilder Lore series. The first book being The Accidental Apprentice, which I just read back in December and loved. And essentially this is a middle grade fantasy series wherein The Accidental Apprentice we follow Barclay Thorne, who is a mushroom farmer apprentice, and when he accidentally magically bonds with this beast and becomes its lore keeper, he then has to travel to the town of Sycamore to try to get this beast removed. And that's the very gist of it. There's also like these trials and kind of a little bit of like found family elements. And I just really enjoyed it, and in The Weeping Tide we are now switching locations to more of a like ocean setting compared to like the forest that The Accidental Apprentice had. And yeah, this is like one middle grade that I'm really excited for. I have it requested from my library, so I will probably be reading it as soon as that hold comes out, although I don't know when that will be. So like, might be February, might be March, but I will be reading it as soon as I'm able to. The next book is Claimed by Cupid by Dana Isley, and this is it's kind of like a erotic short where essentially it's like the companion to Dipped in Holly by Dana Isley, which is like a Christmas smut thing with Holly and Nick, and it's like dark, has some BDSM elements and all that, and Claimed by Cupid is like the Valentine's Day special where I'm guessing it's like a Valentine's Day date and then the very kinky sex afterwards. I really don't know. All I know is I will read anything by Dana Isley. She could write a goddamn shopping list and I would sit there and read it. Like, one of my favorite authors out there. I have literally read everything that she has written up to this point, like that has been published, and so of course I'm going to be reading Claimed by Cupid on release date. The next book, which comes out on the, let me check, I just checked and I forgot, on the 8th is Golden Boys by Phil Stamper, and I don't know much about this except it's like take place over summer, and there's these 4 queer friends that are all like having to like go their separate ways for the summer. I will read the Goodreads description because that's all I could tell you. So National best-selling author Phil Steffort crafts the perfect summer friendship story starring 4 queer boys with big hearts and even bigger dreams. Gabriel, Reese, Sal, and Heath are best friends, bonded in their small rural town by their queerness, their good grades, and their big dreams. They are about to embark on the summer before the senior year of high school, where each is getting a new big adventure. Reese is attending a design school in Paris. Gabriel is going to Boston to volunteer with an environmental nonprofit. Sal is interning on Capitol Hill for a U.S. senator, and Heath is stuck going to Daytona Beach to help out his aunt's beachfront arcade. What will this summer of new experience and world-expanding travel mean for each of them and their friendship? So it's like the 4 friends having to like keep their friendship still a friendship at various points, like at with them being at various places. And this is the first book in is it going to be a duology? Yeah, it looks like, according to Goodreads, it's going to be a duology. But this feels like the perfect summer read because it takes place in summer, so I probably won't read it until like June, July, August. Because again, it feels like a summer read and it's like freezing cold outside, so I'm like, do I really want to read a book about summer in February? Yes and no, but again, with the huge TBR, this will probably be more of like a June, July, August read when summer is actually happening. And the next book is like my most anticipated release of February, and that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas, which is the sequel to House of Earth and Blood. And in House of Earth and Blood, I always struggle to describe this book, but essentially in House of Earth and Blood, we follow half-fae Bryce Quinlan as she ends up needing to help this person solve these murders, because these murders are linked back to her past, and in doing so, this, like, it could be a little dangerous, so she ends up getting assigned a bodyguard of the fallen angel Hunt Athalar, and it's kind of like the 2 of them trying to solve these murders, and we're in like a fantasy world, but it's like modern day equivalent, kind of like there's cell phones, there's TVs, there's like, I think there might even be things like equivalent of like airplanes or something. Don't know if that was mentioned, but I just loved this. I loved the first book so much when I read it was it May 2020? Yeah, I feel like it was May 2020 when I read it. I loved it so much. I've been dying. I've been like dying to continue the series, and like it's finally happening, and it's happening 2 days after my birthday. So like, birthday present. I already know I'm getting this for my birthday, and I'm sitting here like, please, can like shipping not be an asshole, and can it get here like really early, like compared to what the day it's telling me, like the day my Indigo order is telling me. It's saying it's gonna be here the 24th, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. How about like release day? That's not gonna happen. But still, I'm so excited for House and Sky and Breath because of like, not necessarily where we ended off, but because of so many unanswered questions that I'm like, okay, I need the answer to that like a year and a half ago. The next book is Dukes of Ruin by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue, and this is the like, it's the almost like the second series in a greater series. It's almost like the second series in the Royal of Forsyth's University series, because like this is technically the 4th book, but there are also like the first 3 books, which are Lords of Pain, Lords of Wrath, and Lords of Ruin, is it? That those like have separate characters to this, and this I literally do not know anything about. I don't want to know anything going about. It's like a dark reverse harem set at a university, and essentially like how the university works is there are like, think of like fraternities, but instead of like having like kind of like almost like typically fraternities, at least that I know, go by like these like Greek kind of things. But at this university, it goes like royalty titles. So there's, well, the lords, the dukes, the barons, the princes, the counts, like all of that. And so we've already seen like the lords, and now we're moving on to the dukes. And I think we're following a girl that is mentioned in the first 3 books, but I cannot remember the name. And I can't really remember like the reason why we're following her. But I am very excited for this, as literally the first 3 books were some of the darkest, most fucked up shit that I've read. and I love them so much, so I'm very excited to read more of this series, and I believe that throughout the rest of 2022, I think it's 3 books in like this chunk of the series are coming out, and the first book is obviously coming out on the 15th, so I will probably be reading this on the 15th when it comes out, probably just like sitting there reading it while waiting for House of Sky and Breath to show up. The next book is A Throne from the Ashes by C.C. Penaranda, and this is the 3rd book in the An Heir Comes to Rise series, where essentially in the first book, An Heir Comes to Rise, we follow Faith, who she is this thing called a Nightwalker, and essentially Nightwalkers are able to like go into the dreams of people and all of that, but this is an ability that she shouldn't have because she is human, and this is an ability that is very rare amongst the Fae. And she ends up getting trained by a guard named Nick to like use her Nightwalker abilities, and things really move on. In the 2nd book, A Queen Comes to Power, we're set in like the castle of this kingdom, and then in A Throne from the Ashes we are going to a different kingdom, and one thing I'm very excited with A Throne from the Ashes is it's getting moved up a age range. So the first 2 books are YA, like upper YA, but A Throne from the Ashes has moved up to new adult, and the rest of the books in the series will be new adult, and I'm very curious to see how that like switches some character dynamics. And I really like the first 2 books. This is again one that I probably will read. Like, it's not on my TBR for February, but I low-key will like try to shove it in if I can. If not, definitely in March. Like, I'm very excited for it. So yeah. And A Throne from the Ashes comes out on February 22nd. I forgot to mention that. And then on the 28th, on the last day of the month, is Tethered by Angelina J. Steffort, and this is the 4th and final book in the Breath of Fate series. I cannot believe that this series is going to be over next month. Essentially, in the first book, Torn, which is the first book in the series, we follow Lani Dawson, who discovers that she's a Lightbringer, and Lightbringers are essentially the people that they drag the souls of the dead to heaven, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are Shadowbringers that drag the soul of the dead to hell or purgatory. And essentially, Lani has to learn how to become a Lightbringer with the help of her best friend Leon, who is also a Lightbringer, while also a Shadowbringer named Cass is trying to gain Lani's soul, because until you first use your Lightbringer powers, you have the risk of your soul being stolen by a Shadowbringer. And the 4th book will be a lot different because, if I remember correctly, we are currently stuck in hell. I'm not going to say how we got there, but we're currently stuck in hell. And things happen in the end of... Is it Unforgiven? Is that book 3? I always get book 2 and book 3 messed up of the titles because they're quite similar. But is Unforgiven book 3? We'll go with that. The end of book 3, we left off on like a huge thing, and I'm very, very, very excited to see where it goes. This book I might be getting an arc of. I say might because typically Angelina like opens arcs for some people every so often, and so if there's an opening to get arcs, I will like sign up. Because I know I'm a part of her arc team for her other series, so I might be able to get an arc of this. And obviously, if so, I'll be reading and reviewing it, and if not, I will be probably on release day reading it because it will be on Kindle Unlimited, so yeah. But those are the 8 books that I'm excited for this month. Let me know what books you are excited for in the month of February. If you've heard of any of these books as well, I'd love to hear that. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!